Leaky gut, also known as intestinal permeability. It can have drastic consequences that aren't only digestive related, but actually can affect your overall health. In this video, I'm going to show you what leaky gut is and explain that. I'm going to show you how to diagnose it, and I'm going to give you some strategies on how you can overcome it. And we're going to get started right now. Well, hello everyone, I'm Dr. Glenn Harrison and welcome to this week's episode of Why. This is where we take just a few minutes to answer some of the most common health-related questions that I see in my office every day. So this video is all about something called leaky gut or intestinal permeability. If you've been struggling with digestive issues and have many questions about leaky gut, this is the video for you. So really, what is leaky gut? Well, leaky gut, you can blaze through all the medical journals online. You're not going to find leaky gut. That's a slang term. You're going to find something called intestinal permeability. And at one time, leaky gut was seen as a myth. It was seen that it doesn't exist, and it was more of a theory. But then it was proven. Harvard Gastroenterology actually proved it. This is years back, and now it is. It's something. It's recognized. So what is leaky gut? Well, again, I've done many videos on it. It's really where contents that should be inside your intestine leak into your bloodstream. That's really what it is. The entire proteins, not the amino acids when you break down a protein, but the entire large molecule, the protein, gets out of your gut and into your bloodstream. And these could be food particles that you've eaten that aren't fully digested, or they could actually be, toxins from your gastrointestinal tract that should be on your way out of the body. Any one of those can start leaking in your bloodstream. And what happens, once it crosses your bloodstream, it can cause many problems. One of the most important things that it causes is it can either turn on autoimmune disorders and immune-related disorders, or amplify an existing autoimmune disorder like rheumatoid arthritis or ulcerative colitis or even multiple sclerosis. So we work with a lot of autoimmunity in our office, and one of the things we really want to make sure and be very confident that leaky gut isn't a contributor to amplifying and increasing their symptoms and progressing their disorder. So leaky gut's a real thing, and it's something that you want to look for. So some of the common symptoms, like I said, it'll aggravate an existing autoimmune disorder. Another thing that it'll do, it'll turn on your immune system because remember, those particles, they cross out of the gut into the bloodstream, and it mounts an immune response. So anytime you have a cold or a flu, one of the first symptoms you get is feeling exhausted. So a lot of times energy can come down with leaky gut. Okay, so reduced energy. And increased food sensitivities. This is one that's commonly missed. I see it all the time. People having random, sporadic food disorders, food sensitivities, food allergies. It's like they're walking through a minefield, never knowing what they're going to consume and what kind of reaction or problem or digestive issue they're going to have. If someone has random food sensitivities, should really consider intestinal permeability or leaky gut syndrome. It could be on the table. Sometimes if there's enough, your immune system is steady fighting all these foods that you're eating, could be healthy foods, you can develop permanent allergies. Seasonal allergies, all of these other things, chemical allergies that you never had before because your immune system is ramped up. So when you talk about leaky gut, it shouldn't only be looking at digestive issues. You should also be considering immune weakness or hyperimmune reactions, exaggerated immune reactions to your environment and foods and so on and so forth. So those are some of the symptoms. Another thing that happens with leaky gut is liver toxicity, right? So if these food particles come out of your gut into your bloodstream, anything that's not supposed to be in the bloodstream doesn't only create an immune response, but then the liver has to try to flush this stuff out. So you can get liver toxicity and have skin issues and cognitive problems and brain fog. It just amplifies. Leaky gut is the root of many health-related disorders, so it should be ruled out, hence the purpose of this video. And sometimes it can be stealthy. Sometimes you don't really have obvious abdominal digestive bloating symptoms, but you can have these increased environmental allergies. So what can you do? Well, number one, you can watch these videos and then have some strategies and even access the lab testing for it, which is I'm going to show you right away. But you should have a doctor that's versed in leaky gut syndrome, versed in complex digestive issues, not only pharmaceuticals, because this isn't a pharmaceutical deficiency. Leaky gut is not a pharmaceutical deficiency. Sometimes pharmaceuticals cause the problem. Okay, so get a doctor. You can work with us. We work with people all over. We can help you, or we can point you in someone in the direction where you're at, and hopefully that it can get figured out. So how do we determine leaky gut? Well, history is important. That's why you need. That's why a good doctor to look at all that history and speculate if it is it, and come up with some theories and a plan, differential diagnoses. Then the next step is testing. If it's not obvious that there's leaky gut, testing, you can do this. So there's a few interesting lab tests out there that aren't that good. There's two that I recommend. I'm not endorsing them by no means, or they're not endorsing me, I should say. I'm not getting any kickbacks from them. And they're blood tests. One company is called Diagnostics. Highly reputable company, been around a long time. They run a blood test for it. And then there's another company I use a lot of, and it's Cyrex Laboratories. What they're all about immunology, and they have a lab test called Cyrex Array 2, and this is all leaky gut. This is what they do. This is what the test is. And here's a great picture of the test. So in this picture you can see, this is actually right from Cyrex Array 2. Transcellular and paracellular routes of intestinal barrier penetration. What does that mean? There's two types of leaky gut. There's one that is transcellular, trans meaning around the cell, or I should say paracellular, around the cell, and then there's another one that's transcellular, where the contents, and if you can see in this picture, those little cells, those are coating and lining the immune system, or I should say the intestinal lining. Up above, this is the contents, and should be the inside of your intestinal lining, inside your gut, and then way in the bottom, that red streak there, that is the blood. So those little cells, those are the barrier between your inside of your gut and your bloodstream, the gut-blood barrier, these little cells. And then you can see, and first I'm going to talk about the one that's not as severe. So you can see paracellular penetration of antigens. So those little dots, those are proteins, if we want to call, or biotoxins or whatever. They can go through and break the border. So these little, you can see the little border between them. These are I'm flipping my page here. So these little border, you can break them and damage them. Immune responses, you can damage them with so many things. I'm going to get to the causes of leaky gut. But when it's breached between the cells, that's called paracellular. And that is not as severe of a form of leaky gut as the other one to the left, transcellular. Transcellular is where there's actually injury and the cell is damaged right through the cell. So you get contents going right through the cell. So paracellular isn't as severe as transcellular. Transcellular is much more severe. It takes longer to heal, longer to recover. And yes, you can recover from leaky gut syndrome, okay? So there's a few things that are tested in a Cyrex Array 2, and you can see the antigens measured. One is actomyosin proteins. So if you have positive actomyosin, you're making antibodies to actomyosin proteins. That means you have transcellular leaky gut. If you have antibodies to occludin and zonulin proteins, that means that you have paracellular leaky gut. It's good to know this because one is more severe than the other, and the more severe form tells us another story and other things we've got to look for clinically and what strategies are going to be used. Now there's the third marker on this test, and that is the presence of lipopolysaccharides. Okay, so lipopolysaccharides are a biotoxin that tend to be found in the gut. Tend to be, but they're fine if they stay in the gut. That's on the way out of the body. But when you have leaky gut, these lipopolysaccharides, these are biotoxins. They're extremely toxic, by the way. They leak across the gut-blood barrier, whether it's transcellular or paracellular, and they get into the bloodstream, and it's not a normal toxin. It's a very, very inflammatory toxin. If you have this, you're going to have, a lot of times people have brain fog, extremely lethargic. Sometimes you can have skin disorders, and it can go on literally for years and years and years and years and years. And if people always have leaky gut or always have digestive problems and episodes of leaky gut, they can have something called endotoxemia, where these endotoxins get in the bloodstream, and it constantly degrades the human's life. Everything in life gets a little bit worse, and your physiology and all of your health just constantly declines. So endotoxemia, we see it in our office, but the only way we would know is this test, Cyrex Array 2. It's one of the best ones. That's why I use it, and Cyrex has always been good to us, and well, Genova has as well, but I tend to use more Cyrex just because of the logistics and the turnaround time. So that is leaky gut. That's the two different mechanisms of leaky gut: transcellular, paracellular, and then Cyrex Array also tests for endotoxemia, so you can see if you're endotoxic. So it's a great test to confirm and then to know, and then once you seal it up, a lot of those symptoms of food sensitivities and food allergies, a lot of them can actually disappear. Not always, but many times. In our clinic, we see a lot of changes in what people can tolerate versus before. But we have to find out what is the cause of leaky gut. Okay, so there's many causes, and here's a neat little picture. It's kind of outlined. A colleague of mine put this together, so I can't take credit for it. But if you're diagnosed with leaky gut, some of these things you want to look at. You want to look at diet, alcohol, gluten, casein, processed foods, excess sugar. These are all contributors, or can be contributors to leaky gut. Medications, many different medications out there. Infections. H. pylori is, I think it's one of the world's most common, digestive infection. It's bacterial overgrowth, like something called SIBO I've done videos on in the past. Viruses and parasites. Stress, there's different hormones, higher level different hormones that'll affect it. Hormonal dysfunction and stress reduction need to be strategies to manage leaky gut. Then neurological disorders, I see a lot of in my office. Post-concussion syndrome, the people get into a car accident and suddenly their digestive system is just not the same, and it never quite comes back. Strokes. So the brain plays a big role in maintaining the integrity of the intestine and maintaining the cells of the intestine. So any kind of traumas and strokes and brain injuries, they can turn on leaky gut. Also Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and dementia are closely known because those are injuries of the brain cells. But they also will injure other neurons in your gut. So your gut is made of a lot of neuronal tissue. And of course, metabolic issues like diabetes and autoimmune conditions can be the cause of leaky gut, but also can amplify leaky gut. And so these things got to be taken care of. So I know there's a lot on this little picture, but when you are dealing with chronic GI issues and you start learning about leaky gut and is it a factor, not everybody has leaky gut, right? And people come out, everybody's like, everybody has leaky gut. No, not everybody. But it's got to be ruled out, or your health efforts will, they're just not going to work because this barrier has been breached. So there's a lot that can be done here. We can help. You can always reach out to us, or we can forward you to someone closer in your area, but we can work with people all over. So feel free to reach out to us if you have questions about this. You can even most states can order this lab through our office if you just want the lab. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. I look forward to talking to you next day where we're going to answer the why to another health-related question. Have a great day.